Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you'll love this watch, email me. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. That is still my email. It is still in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Email me for pricing. I am Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. In 2019, Omega presented an extraordinary prototype, the Planet Ocean Ultra Deep, 28 millimeters thick and rated to 15,000 meters. It was overkill, even for adventurers. But in 2022, it launched this, the ultimate Omega dive watch and the flagship of the Planet Ocean collection. This is the production version of the Planet Ocean Ultra Deep in stainless steel. Now 6,000 meters rated, still a beefy 20,000 feet. It is an ISO 6425 2018 spec diver. That means the latest version of the statutory definition of a dive watch, and it is big. At 45.5 millimeters in diameter, it is broad across the wrist at 51.5 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs, and we have deliverance from that 28 millimeter prototype, as this watch is only 18.1 millimeters thick, and I say that with a little bit of a nod and a wink. It is still quite large, but the watch is surprisingly wearable on my wrist of 16 centimeters circumference. You can see there's an immense amount of wrist presence, but as tall as it is, it's not particularly broad across the wrist. From over the top, you can see that the lugs come out to the edge of my wrist, but not beyond. I'm actually pulling the strap pretty tight, so this exaggerates the width of the watch. Now, you can see down the barrel, as I like to say, that the lugs are inboard of the edge of my wrist, though you'll also note it is not a watch to fit underneath a cuff. I think if your wrist is my size or larger, so 16 centimeters circumference or up, you're going to find this is a fairly easy watch to wear. Now, there is one qualifier. If you're shopping this watch in titanium, it's only available with full loop lugs or manta lugs, as they're called. This is a different case with the steel model, so you have a little bit more flexibility, and you can use a standard strap here. But if you're shopping the tie, the fit, the feel, even the straps and the lugs are different. Now, this watch is made of Omega steel, which is actually a nickel-free steel, so it's not merely the equivalent of Rolex's 904L. This is more corrosion resistant. But one thing this is that 904L really isn't is this is 40 to 50% harder than standard 316L steel. 904 is more corrosion resistant than 316, but depending on the treatment, it's not really any harder, whereas this 40 to 50% harder, this actually is quite a bit more scratch and scuff resistant. Now, the strap is a lovely piece. You can see that there's a little honeycomb pattern that's molded into it, then a brushed satination down the center. This is all one piece. It's made of rubber, but you can see it's made to look like different materials via textures, tones, and colors. There's a little bit of a conforming profile, so it matches the slope of the lugs and the curvature of the case for a fully integrated all-of-a-piece look, and then it thins out as it moves away from the case. It also tapers down. You can see on the bottom there are some striations where material's been removed to make it more supple. You can see large apertures for the sizable pin buckle. The pin buckle, also in Omega steel, features a combination of satin and polish, and so does the case. This is not merely a standard Planet Ocean 45.5 millimeter case. Like almost everything about this watch, it's bespoke to the model. So you can see we have the lyre style lugs, inward and outward bevels, with the outward bevels polished, and the bevel runs side to side. We have a longitudinal satination. Then we have a set of squared off crown guards with a crown that's polished and media blasted and unique to this watch, and you better believe it's a screw down. Now, the bezel, this is the Omega dive bezel. In terms of feel and sound, this is the first Omega dive bezel I've encountered that is the qualitative equal of Rolex, both in terms of its refinement and its micro detents through all 120 clicks. Now, it is a ceramic bezel, so Omega has finally gotten on top of orange ceramic. And we'll do a quick lume shot so you can see that this watch is not stingy with the lume. The entire bezel is calibrated and lumed all the way around. And you can see that the bezel pearl and the minute hand are both green, so you can tell them apart from the rest of the dial at a glance. And you can see that all three hands are loomed, including the seconds hand, so you know in the depths down at 20,000 feet that this watch is still running, which I consider to be a formidable safety feature. Every dive watch should have a loomed running seconds hand. Orange has always been the signature color of the Planet Oceans since the debut of the model line back in 2005, and you see it again here. What is new is that we have this lacquer gradient dial. So the lacquer is used to create a gradient fade, smoked or fumé. You can see we have applique quarter Arabic numerals in orange, and then orange and white print with applique individual hour indices for a way upscale look, and it's a balanced dial with no date. We also have a couple of setting features here. We do have hacking seconds, and by the way, there is quite a bit of threading out of this crown before it becomes accessible just because it is so water resistant. Now I can move the hour hand independently as I jump time zones and travel. Note that the watch is still ticking. This doesn't disrupt the seconds hand or the minute hand. Now if I pull the crown out all the way, it will stop the seconds hand, and now you can synchronize to a reference time. This crystal is double AR coated, so inside and out. You can see it is a remarkable thing, redoubtable in its box profile as well as its loft. This is an extremely expensive crystal to make and immensely thick. Probably the reason this watch does not have a date is because the crystal is so thick and the case is already so beefy. So by removing the date wheel, they can make the watch a little bit thinner overall, which is not to say that it is thin, just that it is thinner. Now on the back, we have a case back that always aligns top to bottom so that the seahorse or the hippocampus is properly aligned. But it's actually a two-piece. You've got the outer screw and case back, which is made of steel, and then you've got the core, which is actually made of titanium. You can see it as a coaxial master chronometer. It is for saturation diving, so for exotic gas mixtures, it doesn't have a helium escape valve. The idea being it is so hermetically tight that it is essentially immune to helium intrusion, so you don't have to worry about helium getting out as you surface. Like the Ploprofs of the 70s, it is so tightly sealed that the gas itself cannot intrude. Now the movement is very similar to the 8900, but because it has no date, it's got a different reference number. This is the 8912 automatic bidirectional winding 60-hour power reserve, twin barrels in series for a very flat, consistent torque curve, and thus consistent timekeeping. Stop seconds, the independent hour hand, the coaxial escapement on 3 levels. It has a free sprung balance with a full balance bridge for shock resistance, pivots on 39 joules. It has an anti-magnetic silicone hairspring, an anti-magnetic balance staff, and escapement, effectively rendering this watch amagnetic. It goes through the master chronometer certification, which means that not only has it been tested as a fully cased-up watch in 6 positions to meet chronometry standards, but it's also been tested for water resistance, durability, anti-magnetic qualities, winding efficiency, and power reserve. The METAS standard, created by Omega and the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology, is a much more demanding test, not just of precision, but also of durability than the COSC. If you love this watch, email me. I am T Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.